them above never took him, but them that wait and watch in the loam and mold in dreams.
Jewish Boy by Stephen Sinclair. Read by Nayanomiku. 1. Hooper had just finished reading his family the story of the Good Samaritan. Falling silent, he'd looked up at his wife and all 12 children, who sat with him around the farmhouse's kitchen table. He read harshly, as always, definitely, devoid of joy, and he now glared at them all in the same way, the lamplight accentuating the harsh planes of his hard face. They all sat with downcast eyes, the way William Hooper liked it. All except little Johnny, the youngest. He'd made his way unseen to his father's side. He put his elbow on the table, face to the side, held in one hand. Another little hand reached out, and his forefinger tapped the pages of the Bible. In the flickering light, it looked to Hooper, for a moment, as if the boy's eyes flattened on the shadows and seemed to reflect back the light, like a cat or a dog's. The child grinned up at him. Johnny had rather long teeth. He said, "Daddy?" Hooper's fists clenched. His habitual reaction to most interaction with his youngest son. "Yes, Johnny," said Hooper. "Did God change his mind? After all those floods and boils and striking downs in those other books, when he turned himself into this nice Jewish boy and gave away loaves and fishes and all the healing?" And the boy had chuckled. As it often seemed to, his words and his laugh had almost slunk off into the shadows. "Jewish boy!" Hooper had actually howled with rage. He was almost sullen with anger, desperate with it. He'd grabbed Johnny's arm and dragged the child out, nearly overturned the table. There was a sickening snap as the boy's arm broke. Hooper threw him down on the ground behind the woodshed, taken up a stick, and had almost beaten him to death. Despite being so bowed down with the years of tyranny, his wife and the 2 oldest boys, with one of the sisters, had tried to drag him off, because it had looked like murder. The farmer sent them all flying onto the ground. But he stopped and stalked away, still trembling with anger. Also, of course, with fear. Men like William Hooper do most of their thinking with their spines and skulls, but they do have soft forward parts of their brains, where their dreams live. Johnny's tapping finger had reached in there and teased, scratched, as it always did. Dimly, William had wondered, where did a phrase like that even comes from? Jewish boy. To his ears, his son's cries had had a canine quality. There had only been a few begrudged tears. 2. Originally, no one had expected Johnny to live past his first year. Sickly from the first, he'd got steadily worse. Mrs. Hooper asked old Mrs. Ratchet from over the way for help. The old woman knew all about herbs, and perhaps other things. Johnny's mother had to be careful about seeking this help. Her husband divided the world in its entirety up in the following way: godly, traditional, devilish, or papist. And only he seemed to know which was which. Fortunately, William considered old Mother Ratchet to be traditional. Traditional was good. Also, William was a bit afraid of her. The old woman had done what she could, but she sadly shook her head. She took Mrs. Hooper aside and told her to
put him outside as much as you can. The air will do him good. Also, the angels will find him more easily when it's time.
Secretly, Mrs. Hooper thought it might be better for her youngest to go away with the angels. It would be better than staying here. Mrs. Hooper did this. She didn't tell her husband the stuff about the angels. She was pretty sure he would have thought this papist. Bad. But Johnny didn't die. Suddenly, he got better. Old Mrs. Ratchet had been rather quiet about this, looked at the baby and said something about the color of his eyes. She wouldn't touch him. As he got older, his siblings tended to avoid him, but also to give him his way as much as they could. 3. The Squire from up in the big house liked to think of himself as a jolly old fellow. A proper old-school Tory, he didn't like the new workhouses and poor laws. He was, of course, entitled to his property and power, his tenants to their traditions and getting drunk on cider. Johnny had been in bed for almost a month after the beating, and the big house sent down a doctor. No questions were asked. The man had given Johnny good treatment, but the boy made him uncomfortable. The child had strange, leathery skin on the palms of his hands, the soles of his feet, which were also rather broad and short. Above all, the doctor didn't like the way the child would look at him and smile. It was about this time that old Mother Ratchet died. Before the fever took her, she was heard to say this:
"Them above never took him, but them that wait and watch in the loam and mold, in dreams, for the dead to ripen."
4. It's night. All this has been a year ago. The old Squire has been gone to meet his Maker for more than a month, buried in the crypt of the church in which some of his Crusader ancestors also rest under stone effigies of themselves, or are supposed to rest. The entire Hooper family were at the service. William would allow no talk about the high church service, although he would have normally condemned it as a Roman idolatry. In keeping with family tradition, it was an open coffin affair. Everyone had seen the old man laid out, seen the ruby ring glowing on his finger. William cannot sleep, so he makes his way downstairs. He will sit by the fire and read a few pages of scripture, pray. And of course, Johnny is standing by the fire, grinning up at him. Slowly, the child brings a hand from behind his back, opens it. Hooper gasps at what's there, glowing red in the firelight. Softly, the farmer exclaims, "You're no son of mine! The devil sent you!" The child runs silent from the house, towards a small but dense spinney of trees. It is a full moon. For a moment his father can only stand and watch, but then he is after him. But not before he has taken up an axe. The time for sticks is past. Hooper catches up with the boy, just in the shadows of the trees. Johnny is standing, smiling at him once more. And that's when Hooper sees all the eyes. Eyes that glow in the shadows. A bluish, mineral color. A hand reaches from the bushes, a hand like a man's, but also somehow like a dog's paw. It's as broad as a good-sized shovel. It grasped his wrist, but the axe has already fallen to the ground. The ghouls emerge. One of them says, "Jewish boys taste like rotten chicken. 3 days in a tomb, you English man will be like rancid beef, seasoned with maggots." Little Johnny turns to eat and says, "Yum, yum, father."